Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Make or Break Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, August 14th. Glad to have you back. If this is your first time joining the live stream, welcome aboard. Hit that sub button, hit that like button. We're happy to have you. If you're returning, happy to have you back. You guys are all awesome. I'm Matt. Got Ben over there. What's going
What's
on?
going on, guys? How we all doing? Beautiful night, beautiful night.
Yeah,
Got the
dude.
fantasy football marathon starting up. We got 2 hours in. I'm watching it right now. I think we're going to go
All
for
right.
28 hours tonight, I think, right? That's the
Yep,
plan?
28 straight hours of Make or Break Sports Fantasy Football broadcast. I like it. I
Not
think we can.
quite, not quite, but
Yo, go hit a like if you'd like to see us Make or Break Sports Marathon. Anyway, so Ben, how was your weekend, buddy? What's going on?
it's good, man. This is getting close. We got 2 weeks till our fantasy draft, so I spend most of it just hanging out, doing a little research, updating some rankings, which are going to come out later this week. We'll talk more about that later on as well. But yeah, I mean, other than that, not too much going on. How about you? Watch the
Yep.
good golf tournament this
Yeah,
weekend.
dude, the golf
Watch
was
that.
awesome.
We'll definitely
We're
talk more about that later, though. But
sadly we're going to be talking about the golf later.
yeah,
That's a little sad for me. So, Ben, while you were out doing all your fantasy football research last night, I watched the most terrifying movie of my entire life. I watched the new Annabelle creation movie, dude. I'm going to be looking over my shoulder the entire podcast because that was the most terrifying garbage I've ever seen in my life. It was intense. So, I had a tough time sleeping last night, so I'm a little tired. So I'm blaming the Annabelle movie if I make any mistakes. But
well,
anyway, let's get into it. We got all kinds of NFL
yes,
news. That's
sir.
what we're
Yes,
going to be
sir.
focusing on early. Ton of NFL stuff going on early. So we're going to get right into it. So, Ben, big moves in the NFL, actually some
A
trades.
lot
You
of
don't,
big moves. Yeah, you don't see a lot of
don't
trades like this early in the offseason, especially. Like normally, it's either at the very beginning of the offseason or like during the season. You see a couple, but you don't really ever see NFL moves happening during like training camp. So it's kind of surprising to see that go down, especially because there are a lot of big name players that happened in this. The Bills wanted to be super active. They went out and made two separate trades, kind of messed around with the receiving core a little bit. They traded Sammy Watkins away, traded him to the LA Rams. In exchange, they got cornerback EJ Gaines and a third round pick. I think a second round pick from them, actually. So, but they got a high draft pick for that. So Sammy Watkins now on his way back, pairing up with Robert Woods once again over in LA. So I think he definitely downgraded a little bit there. But then the Bills came right back around and they traded Ronald Darby to the Eagles for Jordan Matthews. So they end up basically the swap was Ronald Darby and Sammy Watkins for Jordan Matthews and EJ Gaines and a few draft picks trying to bolster up for the future. Matt, what do you think? I mean,
Yeah,
I
dude,
really don't know.
wide receivers on the move. So Watkins to the Rams and Matthews to the Bills. I have to say, Watkins definitely went down on my rankings, and like we said, we're gonna have another ranking. We're actually gonna have a ranking special video coming out towards the middle of the week, so definitely stay tuned for that. But definitely think Watkins kind of went down a little bit. I know Ty God Taylor isn't the greatest quarterback in the NFL, but I think Ty God is better than Jared Goff. Not a huge fan of Goff. I think, the Rams going 4-12 last year, they only had 14 passing touchdowns as a team. So clearly not doing a whole lot in the air attack with, I believe it was Case Keenum and Goff both split in time last year. Don't really like this move for Watkins. I think that it really kind of hurts his value. I think that
Yeah,
it'll definitely help the Rams, but I don't think that Watkins is going to have as much fantasy value now that he's
I
over
mean,
in
I
LA.
think what it does, I think it's important for him. The big thing is, I mean, not that he wasn't the number one in Buffalo because he absolutely was, but Buffalo did just bring in Anquan Bolden, who is a big red zone guy. So I think that he would have taken away a few of those red zone targets. Zay Jones, they drafted, so he was a guy that I'm super high on, and I think he's going to play a role in that offense. And they also are big on Charles Clay. If he can stay healthy, Tyrod Taylor does like throwing to Charles Clay. But I think as him going to LA opens him up for more opportunity because he does have, like I said, Robert Woods and Tavon Austin, who's pretty terrible. But I think those are really the only options. And now that Cooper Kupp coming in now, I know that's getting a lot of talk and stuff like that. But I think Sammy Watkins will be available for more targets. But I think you look at the quarterback that's throwing it to him, and I don't necessarily think that Jared Goff is the guy you want doing that yet. I think Jared Goff will be good a couple years, but I mean, he's still very young in this league. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. Wait, did you say that you like Zay Jones? I haven't heard that ever
I
before.
do. I do.
That's
I will
really
say
weird that you say that.
I was hurt because I first saw this trade, and as soon as it happened, when they brought Anquan Bolden in, it was brutal. Zay Jones, I had him at my wide receiver 42, which I know is a little bit on the high side, very optimistic, but I was definitely taking his upside there. But I had him at wide receiver 42, and they brought in Anquan Bolden. I dropped him way down to like 55, 60, like dropped him down a bunch just because of that. And now bringing in Jordan Matthews, I know they're still replacing Watkins, but I don't think Jordan Matthews is at the caliber of Sammy Watkins. So I moved Zay Jones back up right to exactly where he was before.
I think Jordan Matthews' stock went up for sure, though, as far as where we had him ranked before, because
the thing about that, though, Matt, is I don't know if you saw the day after his very first practice, he cracked his sternum. He has a chip bone in his sternum.
And he cracked the sternum.
They're saying he's week to week right now. I know the sternum is not, it's a cracked bone, so he literally has bone missing. So the thing about that is I know it's the sternum. It's not really a necessary – obviously it's a necessary part, but I think it's a relatively easy healing process. But anytime you have that kind of bone breakage, you definitely worry about re-injury as well.
Yeah, you got to worry about the injury for sure, but I think in terms of actual just better situation, I think that Jordan Matthews is definitely going to benefit from a better situation in Buffalo than he had in Philadelphia, because with Philadelphia bringing in Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, and I think they really were trying to breed Nelson Aguilar into one of their featured guys as well. I think Jordan Matthews was definitely going to get swept under the rug a little bit in terms of fantasy production and in terms of usage and targeting. So I think he's going to get a lot of targets now in Buffalo, as long as he can stay healthy. Obviously with the cracked sternum, got to worry about that.
And that's it. Matt, I'm going to tell you right now, I think the person who benefited from this trade the most is LaShawn McCoy. I think LaShawn McCoy, with the stuff that happened between him and Zeke, I think LaShawn McCoy's stock over the past couple of days has just skyrocketed through the roof. There's rumors going around that LaShawn McCoy they're planning on LaShawn McCoy leading that team in receptions. And if he can lead the team in receptions, he's going to be putting up numbers. He's going to be up at that caliber of David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. He had almost 1,100 rushing yards last year. And
easy now, partner. Easy.
Hey,
easy.
You can say whatever you want. I'm telling you right now, if he gets that many catches, you got to think that's
I agree. I think Shady's stock did go up big time. I think we're going to start to see Shady's ADP go way, way up.
Way up, yeah. Because now he
probably
becomes the RB3, which I want to say I've had him as the RB3 since we've started over Zeke. So, I don't want to.
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people. We'll get to the Zeke situation in a little bit, but I think that a lot of people are going to now. You're going to see those guys that were targeting Zeke in that early first round are going to start taking McCoy. McCoy legitimately becomes a mid to early first round pick in fantasy football. A, because of this move, lose Watkins, so now he's going to get more production, and B, with the suspension to Zeke. This bodes well for LaShawn McCoy in fantasy, especially as ADP as
to me, as drafts go on, we can talk more about this when we do our draft, like our draft special eventually as well. But what I think you're going to see happen is that happens in a lot of drafts, especially with quarterbacks. I think you're going to see those 2 running backs go, then you're going to see a couple wide receivers go, and then someone will jump on McCoy. And once somebody jumps on McCoy, I think you're just going to see running back after running back after running back after running back going, and it's going to leave those wide receivers open toward the back end of the second round as well. Like, people are just going to be, it's going to start that chain reaction, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see that change. It definitely changes the dynamic. Watkins changes. Like I said, we dropped him, but we'll get more into that in depth in our next
semi-interesting question now. As far as fantasy goes, you're still saying Watkins over Matthews. We'll just talk about these trades. Would you still go Watkins over Matthews?
I would.
Sure?
I would.
100%?
I think Watkins is way better. I think Watkins is better talent-wise than Matthews, and that's why I give him the edge. I think Watkins has the better ability to go up and get the ball. If Watkins is healthy, I think he's a top 10 wide receiver. Kenny Britt put up top 15 numbers last year in St. Louis or in LA, so I think he has the capability to do that.
Yeah, but I think that and now I'm a little nervous about Watkins, and I do agree. I think slightly in terms of fantasy production, Watkins will be better than Matthews. Right. As long as Matthews stays healthy, though, if I can talk, I promise, I think he should be all right. But you got to remember, so LA brought in now they have like a stable of wide receivers. They brought in Robert Woods. They have Red Solo Cup. And now they bring in Watkins and Tavon Austin, not to mention.
Red Solo, where did you just that is that
on the fly. I have not written that down. That was on the fly. I like that. Red Solo Cooper Cup. I don't know. I don't. It's hard to trust Sammy Watkins in that offense.
I mean, it's hard to trust anybody in LA's offense, but I just think that, in my opinion, Jared Goff's going to lock in on that guy. And I think Sammy Watkins will be that guy. I mean, I definitely think Gurley is the focal point of that offense, no doubt. I mean, he's going to get close to, like I said, I've been saying, he's going to get close to 300 touches. But the whole thing and the fact of the matter is, you need to understand that there's going to be those. They didn't bring Anquan Bolden in for nothing in Buffalo. They didn't draft the wide receiver for nothing in Buffalo. They know that they lost guys, but I just think that the Tyrod Taylor, they're going to be a more focused, run-oriented offense in Buffalo. And like I said, when they're looking for passes, it's going to be to guys like Bolden in the red zone or LaShawn McCoy. And I just think that Jordan Matthews will get looks, but I just don't think he's going to put up the numbers that Sammy Watkins will still be able to put up in LA, because LA is going to be down a lot.
You think this hurt Ty God's stock at all?
No, I have Tyrod staying right where he was. I have him, I think, at QB 15 or 17, something like that. But I have him staying right about where he was. I don't think it hurts him too much because he has that mobile factor. And I just think that keeps him switching out receivers like that. I mean, yeah, Watkins is a target, but Matthews is just as big a target basically. But I just think that Tyrod having that ground capability puts him in the same area.
I agree. Absolutely. So probably the biggest news, I mean, both those trades were big, but probably the biggest news of the NFL offseason in the last couple of days, Ezekiel Elliot, suspension released, 6 whole games.
6 big games. He won't be playing until week 8 because they have a week 7 bye. So technically, if you draft him, he won't even be playing on your team until week 8. So,
which is crazy.
Pretty crazy
just to clarify, I'm gonna take my first L of the day. Many to come. First L of the day.
Yes,
the over/under bet on the Ezekiel Elliott suspension. I took the under. Ben took the over. Set at 2.5
games, and I was confident he was going to get more than that. Matt was very confident he was going to get none, not just less than 2.5. He said none.
My bold prediction was 0 games.
He was 6 games off, so it's 6 games suspension. He is going to appeal, but we do feel like, and from what I've been reading and everybody else there feels as well, if he does appeal it, if it gets reduced at all, it'll only go down to 4 games. So Matt and I both have agreed to tally this one up as a win on my end.
Last I checked, 6 is greater than 2.5. That's that Berwick education math. 6 is greater than 2.5, in fact. So first L of the episode goes to me.
2-1.
That has for those of you that don't know what the score we're keeping is, we talked about it the last couple episodes. By the way, if you haven't checked out episodes 1, 2, 3, or 4, go check them out. We have all kinds of cool content in those episodes as well. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. What we're doing is Ben and I are doing we're going to keep a running tally on these bets that we make. And as we go along, we're going to pick a date. We're going to pick an end date that will be announced. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to pick an end date. And at the time of the end date that we choose, whoever is losing in terms of the betting record, that person has to buy a lucky follower, subscriber, etc., a copy of Madden or 2K. So I was pretty confident. I went up with a 1-0 lead, and I was talking a lot of trash. Now down 1-2, and
just wait, we got more to come.
2 more L's to keep coming,
buddy.
So stay tuned for that.
But anyway, let's get back into it.
Zeke. Yeah, absolutely. Back to Zeke. So
this is big. I mean, I think this changes not only drafts, but it changes fantasy leagues in general. It changes what people are going to be drafting in their first round, especially. I mean, the setup of it boosts guys' stocks, brings guys' stocks down. Matt, what does it do for you? What are your thoughts on it?
A lot of people whose stock does change due to the Zeke suspension. I think right off the bat, the tough one is I think Dak's stock went up because I think Dak is going to have to be utilized more. His arm will be utilized more. I think he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more, and I think he's going to obviously be throwing it, and I think his numbers will be better. I think this hurts the Cowboys record-wise. I think they will lose a few of these games because Zeke is so dominant. Right, good. Let's hope that's good. But I do think in terms of fantasy football production, Dak will gain from this, which is always hard to say because you don't know if it will benefit him because now they can key on him a little more. I just think he's going to have to be utilized so much more. His numbers can't go down.
And see, that's where I am. I have him going down. I have Dez going down. I think that they are going to be able to key in more on the run game on the pass game. So I don't think Dak drops a lot. I have him going from QB8 to QB10, so dropping 2 spots. Still a QB1, still a very solid quarterback choice because of that mobility as well, that he has that mobility factor. The big thing for me is I think the guy that benefits from this the most, and it might sound crazy, we're going to talk more about him later, though, is Cole Beasley. I think Cole Beasley is very underrated. Like I said,
Absolutely.
we both have him later in our NFC East spotlight. But for me, it's the whole thing with Dez is, Dez, when he plays a good cornerback, he's going to struggle. He plays Josh Norman twice a year. He plays the Giants twice a year. They have Janoris Jenkins and they have Rogers Cromartie in there. So I think that's right there. That's 4 games he has to play. Where he's going up against good cornerbacks.
I agree.
I think that puts him in a tough position. The Eagles also, they just got Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby, that's 2 more games. So right there, that's 6 of Dez's games where he might not, I'm not going to say struggle, but he always has a tougher time with the better cornerbacks. So I think that puts him in a little bit of a situation there as well.
Yeah, I think that Dez's stock is, for me, it's really unchanged. I think, like you said, you kind of know what you're getting with Dez. He is solid. He catches a lot of touchdowns, but he is hit or miss, as you know, against good cornerbacks. And he's tough. Dez has been tough in fantasy football to trust, but, he is still a high-caliber wide receiver. And definitely the one that you got to talk about is now McFadden, Alfred Morris.
Yeah,
guys that went from complete fantasy irrelevancy to now probably becoming fringe starters for a lot of fantasy lineups because the offensive line of the Cowboys remains good. Not as good as last year. They did drop a little bit, losing Free, and I believe else did they lose? Leary to the Broncos.
Correct.
And then now they move Lael Collins to that right tackle position or left tackle position, I think. So, their offensive line got a little worse, but still very good, a top 10 unit in the NFL without a doubt. So I think now McFadden, and then if he can stay healthy, probably McFadden, and then if maybe not, Morris, you got to target these guys, and especially Big Alfredo Morris. That's just as bad as Red Solo Cup. Alfredo Morris.
I don't know. We've had Alfredo for a long time now.
Yeah, Alfredo's been a long time name, but so I do think that, and especially with handcuffing, that becomes a huge, huge deal. Zeke's still going to go relatively.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to get too much into the ranking part because we could definitely get more into it later on as we go. But I have this for me dropped Zeke from RB4 all the way down to RB19, which I think is going to be about right because I'll put him probably in like the rounds 3 through 5 range as a running back, which means you're going to have to take McFadden probably pretty close after. So that's why you're going to have to take that risk in your draft of as soon as you draft Elliott, everybody else in that draft is going to be waiting to take McFadden because they know that, you're going to have that trade bait. So once you take Elliott, you're basically putting yourself in position to have to go back-to-back picks to take Elliott and McFadden, which those 2 backs together will still be a top 5 running back if you get McFadden for the first 8 games and then you get Elliott for the last 8 games. That's still going to be a top 5 fantasy running back. However, you're going to have to put yourself in position to be able to draft both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that once Zeke goes, that has that the immediate triggering of getting of McFadden going fairly soon. Whether it's the guy that picks Zeke or a strategic guy who does not have Zeke that tries to pick him, he will go soon after. But we don't really have to get into too much about if this suspension was too much or not enough. What do you think going forward with Zeke as in terms of character issues?
Have you heard what they said? Have you heard the thing that the NFL's told him in the letter? The NFL sent him a letter in his suspension telling him that, hey, just so you know, if you break a rule again, you could very well be banned. Like they're not talking like a year ban. Like they're saying they're not messing around with this kind of stuff. And this isn't the first time Elliott's been in trouble. Don't forget, this is not related to the bar fight that just happened. This is relating all the way back to the investigation that was going on last year. So this took a long time, the sexual assault. And the NFL does not mess around with that. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Elliott just has to understand that he has guys like Jason Witten telling him, hey, you got to get your act together.
I agree.
And Jerry Jones is mad about it. Like, you need to understand, like you said, you don't mess around with domestic violence. You don't mess around with anything like this. Sexual abuse, nothing. But Elliott, he's on the verge of if one more thing goes wrong for him, he could very well not be in the league anymore. And that's a shame because he is such a talent. I think Josh Gordon is very similar to Josh Gordon.
It's 100% a shame because when healthy, Zeke is a top-tier running back without a doubt. And it's just a shame because he really does have a chance to have a very fruitful career in Dallas or wherever it be. And I agree with the NFL cracking down on this. I think it's something that they need to do. And, hopefully he gets his act together because he's an incredible
Yeah,
player.
absolutely.
And, and then for fantasy, now we're back to the drawing board. I'm in that 4 hole in our draft, and, now what do I do? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
man, it messes with everything.
But anyway, so, let's hope that the Zeke situation gets resolved. Hopefully he figures his life out, and hopefully, we'll see what happens in Dallas. But speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, if you haven't seen on Twitter, today we're going to be doing as voted for by you guys, we're going to be doing the NFC East for our division spotlight in today's episode. So you got your Eagles, your Giants, Redskins, and, of course, your Dallas Cowboys.
I hate to say it because I hate the Cowboys and I hate the Eagles, but this is one of the better divisions in football, I think. This is always a battle for who's going to get up at the top of the division, with the exception of, every year it seems like one team has a down year compared to the rest, but three of these teams are normally fighting for the playoff spot and the wild card spots. It wasn't long ago where these teams made it into the playoffs. So
I think this division is, especially for this year, is going to be very exciting. I think the Giants are a top-tier team. I think the Eagles are getting better. I think that Dallas, with Zeke in for those 6 games, would have probably been right up there with the Giants, if not better. Without him, though, I do think there are going to be a couple losses that they wouldn't have gotten without him. So I think that does hurt them a lot. But I still think Dallas has a chance to win the division and definitely snag the wild card. And even Washington has always kind of flown under the radar. They've been hit or miss. Depending on how Captain Kirk plays this year, I think they are another team that could be okay.
I don't know. I'm one of those people right now. I'm all in on the Redskins. I think their offense is just going to be unreal. Their defense is by no means a powerhouse defense, but they do have Josh Norman. They have Ryan Kerrigan, guys like that. They can come off the edge. Dallas, on the other hand, that's what scares me, is Dallas's defense is not very good. I know last year they were not terrible, but they were outscoring everybody. But I just think Dallas does not have any form of secondary whatsoever. So I think teams are going to be able to march up and down the field on Dallas. But normally Dallas last year, especially with Zeke, he was a big part of that, was able to outscore a lot of guys. So that's where I think the Dallas debate comes in. I don't think they have the defense to really do what needs to be done in this division. But I think they can grow. That's something they can grow on. And they're a very young team, so they have years to come. But
yeah, and they were able to not only outscore teams, but they were able to control the clock with the running game. And clock management and time of possession became such a weapon for them in itself. So, I think Dallas could struggle a little bit. But so let's get into our division spotlight.
Yeah,
who do you like your best players in this division? There's only a couple that are
There's only a couple.
superstars.
I think you and I have the same two. I'm pretty sure. We got Dez Bryant and Odell Beckham Jr. I think those are the two premier. I mean, you could put Elliott up there, but with him being out for the first 8 games, fantasy, it really makes – I don't want to say it makes him irrelevant, but as far as best players are concerned, it really does make him irrelevant and, not really draftable with the caliber of these guys. But you got Odell Beckham Jr., who I have him as my wide receiver too, just consistently seems to be putting up numbers. And I personally am one of those people that doesn't think that we've seen Odell Beckham Jr.'s best yet. He's playing with Eli. He's had 2 or 3 years under Eli now to be able to get the rapport with him. And I think this is the year where you're really going to see him put up even bigger numbers than what he's been doing. And Dez, we talked about earlier, Dez is he's like I don't want to say boom bust, but he has a low bust floor. So he has he has a higher floor. So you're going to get a couple catches each game. You're going to get 50 yards each game. So you're going to put up 9-10 points. However, he does have that potential when he plays guys like Josh Norman and those good lockdown cornerbacks. He struggles and he just doesn't show up to play. But then the other games, he puts up, 8 catches for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
yeah, in 13 games last year, Dez scored 8 touchdowns, so he's always a threat to score.
Exactly, yeah.
And anytime you get those guys that can score like that, they're always fantasy studs.
I had both those guys last year. I had both those guys on my team last year. So
that's a solid receiving core for sure. Beckham, I think, is as good as any. He's right in that top tier wide receivers. I like Antonio Brown and Julio Jones slightly better, but I think Beckham's right up there in that tax bracket as far as wide receivers go, without a doubt. A weird thing, though, with Odell Beckham is actually, even though his targets went up, he had his highest target total last year of his career at 169, but his yards and touchdowns actually regressed from previous
And
seasons.
I think part of that was Sterling Shepard, the rise of Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard definitely had a couple. I think Sterling Shepard had 5 touchdowns, something along in those. Excuse me, something in that range of 4 or 5 touchdowns that not necessarily would have gone to Odell Beckham, but Eli Manning dispersing the ball, and now
and now you insert Brandon Marshall into the
right.
equation, and are you still thinking Zeke Odell still pointing up? All signs pointing up for Odell.
Absolutely. I think that just adds another guy they have to cover, because you're going to be able to move. They're going to be putting Odell in the slot even more now, which they had him last year, but now they have that other outside receiver, especially once you get down into the red zone. You're going to have the guy Eli looking on the slant routes, little corner routes, but you also got Brandon Marshall. They're going to have to watch over the top. So I think it gets very interesting. And Odell, can catch a ball standing backwards with his eyes closed and one hand between his legs. So you don't know.
I think throw the ball whenever. Two biggest things that are the question. The only question marks for Odell Beckham, in my opinion, are his mind. Can he keep his cool? We've seen him lose it in the past. I think when he's focused and having fun, he's as good as a player as there is in the NFL. When he loses his head a little bit, I think we see he can struggle. And the other thing is what Eli Manning are we going to get? Because Eli has had great seasons and he's struggled. And, it's just kind of been his thing. And if you have the good Eli playing where he's sharp and he's throwing touchdowns and they're moving the ball, Beckham is as good as any. So those are the two that I think the only really two. I mean, I thought about Jordan Reed at the tight end position. He's a top-tier tight end, just about maybe in that upper second tier. He could. You don't trust Jordan Reed?
Well, we'll talk later. We'll talk more.
Okay, we'll talk about Jordan Reed later. All right, Ben. So the best players are pretty clear cut. How about some NFC East sleepers that we could talk about for fantasy football this year?
So I know we for sure have 2 of the same because we've talked about it before. So we're going to talk sleepers. We can start out with Jamison Crowder, wide receiver for the Washington Redskins. Probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver alongside Terrell Pryor there. I just think Jamison Crowder has great potential. He came around a little bit last year. He was a return guy for them. He had a nice couple I know he had a punt return touchdown, I think, last year. Definitely is very athletic. He's a very athletic guy. He can go up and get the ball whenever he needs to. And I really do think that Terrell Pryor is going to be a number 1 receiver where guys cover him. So I think it leaves the door open a little bit for Jamison Crowder. And Kirk Cousins throws the ball, and that's what they do a lot of the time. I mean, they do run the ball as well, but Kirk Cousins definitely likes airing it out. You know that. So
Cousins can. When you get Captain Kirk playing well, he can chuck the ball. And a lot of people don't realize Jamison Crowder last year, 1 short of 100 targets, 70 catches, 847 yards, and 7 touchdowns. 7 receiving touchdowns for Jamison Crowder.
Good number.
I had him in my one lineup, and he was solid. He really bailed me out a couple of weeks because he did have that potential to score, and underrated player. I really think that Jamison Crowder could continue. He's got that slot ability.
With Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon both being gone, it's basically 2 guys out, 2 new guys in with Pryor, and Crowder knows the system even better. So I think Crowder, knowing that system, is going to be able to fit in there pretty nicely.
Yeah, I like Crowder a lot. I think he's got that. We have him at right around the wide receiver 30 position. I think he could actually trend a little upwards of that. He's not a bad wide receiver to keep an eye on going forward in the drafts. Yeah. Another sleeper you have, Ben, let's go to my one sleeper that I don't think you like. I'm going with LeGarrette Blount for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Coming in, I think the Eagles at running back. They've always had this stable, and I know it's tough to trust any of them, but LeGarrette Blount is coming off a season in 2016 where he had 18 rushing touchdowns. Mm-hmm. You can't say that about many running backs in recent NFL history.
Sure.
18 rushing touchdowns is a staggering number, and for fantasy football, I had him on a team too, and he was just dominant some games. And what I like about him here in Philly is a lot of people don't realize that Philadelphia has one of the best offensive lines in football, with Lane Johnson being as good as any. Peters solid, Kelsey solid, Brooks solid. I think they have a solid offensive line. And he is the guy that ground and pound. He's always going to get the goal line work, in Philadelphia. And, he's going to get the early down work. I really like LeGarrette Blount, and I don't think that many people have him ranked that high. I've seen him sliding in mock drafts. His ADP is low. people don't trust LeGarrette Blount when he was an RB1 last year.
So the thing for me with LeGarrette Blount, and I can tell you about, I have him as a bust. I'm not a huge believer in Blount for the sole fact that I understand 18 touchdowns is incredible. I don't think that's been done in a long, long time. My thing is, last year he was number 1 in red zone carries. That's where all of his points came from. He had 16 of his touchdowns came from inside the 20-yard line. 15 of them came from inside the 10, and then 13 of them came from inside the 5. So that just for me is one of those things where you're giving him the ball in the red zone. He had 68 red zone carries. The next highest was David Johnson at 53. We all know what he's capable of. Then Devontae Freeman at 50. So he had 15 more than anybody else and almost 20 more to the next closest. So that's a big thing there. B, Eagles offense is not New England's offense by any means, any shape or the form. You cannot say the Eagles offense is as good as New England's offense. So, Brady would march them down the field. They'd get inside the red zone. And don't forget, Gronk was hurt a lot last year. So a lot of those targets where they might throw the ball to Gronk, they ran it in from the 5-yard line with LeGarrette Blount instead. So that's a big thing for me. LeGarrette Blount had 25 carries inside the 5. The next highest was 15 after David Johnson. Him and David Johnson had the same, but David Johnson's a different, you know how I feel about him. But
the thing with Blount is, I know New England's offense was fantastic, but running backs don't excel in the New England offense in terms of fantasy production that often. And he still found a way to make his moves. And I know that Brady did get him down the field, but I think he's going to get the undoubted early down carries. And I do think Philly's offense is on the rise. I think Wentz, with 1 year under his belt, is going to be better. They have a really upgraded receiving core with Jeffrey, Smith, Aguilar, and Ertz. And I really do believe that they're going to have some times in the red zone, and he's going to get the touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying he's going to repeat 18.
Right.
No chance. But he was an RB1 last year, top 10 running back. I think he was the 8th best running back in standard formats.
Yeah.
Or no, he was 8th best in PPR. I think he was as high as 6th in standard formats. But I think that he doesn't have to have that production. I think to be very fantasy relevant, he could be a 2 or a flex in terms of production. People are sleeping on him big time, and I like Blount.
His stats last year, 299 carries. No way he gets that 300 carries again. Not in this Eagles offense. There's no way he gets 300 carries. He had 1,100 yards. That's repeatable. Don't get me wrong. I think he could. I mean, that's the most yards he's had by almost 150, 200 yards. That's crazy. Yeah, those are big numbers he put up yardage-wise. But he did only have 3.9 yards per carry, which is the lowest of his career. So I think, don't forget, you get rid of a couple of those touchdowns. For example, you get rid of 6 of those touchdowns and give him a 12-touchdown year, which is 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns for a running back. It's a good number. But you get rid of 6 of those touchdowns, that puts him outside the top 10, which still is good for where you're drafting him, but I just don't think he repeats any of those numbers he gets. That's the thing for me.
I like him. I think he's behind a way better offensive line this year. I think he's going to be utilized a little more because we know how much that the Patriots like to spread the ball around. I like Blount. I think he's going to be.
We'll find out.
I would take him as an RB2 and a flex, or if you can get him as a third running back to stash on the bench to see how he gets utilized in that offense. Yeah. I like LeGarrette Blount a lot.
I just think Sproles is used so much in that offense, and not that the Patriots didn't use that third down back with the Deion Lewis and James White, but I just think Sproles plays such a part in that offense, and when they move fast, they're going to keep Sproles out there. And I think the Eagles are more likely to use that fast-paced offense.
That's the same way the Patriots did it. I think he's in a very similar situation to the Patriots. Obviously, he won't probably get any third down work unless it's third and this far. Right. But I think that he will still be in that similar spot behind a better offensive line. I think he could have a solid numbers. Not repeating the huge numbers, but solid, fringe starting fantasy running back.
Hey, that's fine. I mean, that's what we're here for. Here to agree to disagree. That's all.
Absolutely. So another sleeper that we both do agree on, actually, is Cole Beasley, the Cowboys wide receiver, the speedy slot wide receiver. Beasley. Now, this dude comes in with the suspension to Zeke with a chance to really have ramp in production, especially with Dak, coming in with the rapport with him. And with Dez obviously being the one that gets keyed on, I think Beasley has a chance to be pretty solid this year.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
I think that Beasley, the way this offense will work, and I think since they're not going to have the play action to spread the field out, I think they're going to have to go to shorter routes. That's Beasley's bread and butter in the slot, drags, slants, quick outs. I think he's going to have a chance to get involved in that. And in PPR formats, I think a solid year for Cole Beasley coming up.
I agree completely 100%. I think they're going to go the shorter routes. Jason Witten's another year older. While Jason Witten is reliable, I do think that he's getting decently up there in age. They do have that Rico Gathers coming in now, who's everybody's talking about. Let's see if he makes the roster or not. But Cole Beasley, Matt, led the team last year in targets. He beat out Dez, who I know Dez did miss 3 games, so Dez would probably lead that team in targets. But Cole Beasley, that's still something. He had more than Jason Witten. He had more than the rest of the receivers, Bryce Butler and Terrence Williams. He had more than both of those two combined. He had 98 targets. So I just think for him, that's a scary number. And I think he's a very underrated receiver. Definitely not worth drafting and for a starting lineup, starting spot, but definitely somebody to stash away on your bench, because if Dez or somebody goes down, he's going to move up even more. And he's a great red zone target as well. They target him a lot in the red zone on those short little routes.
Yeah, those quick routes for sure.
Cole Beasley, guy we both like.
So here's a guy that I got to ask a question, and he had a really low, under the radar, solid season. What do you think about Fat Rob Kelly?
Rob Kelly, I have him as a breakout. So Rob Kelly, I have him as a breakout. I think he is. The more and more I look at it, like I said in our first ranking, I was pretty high on P. Ryan being the starter. I've kind of taken that back a little bit now, and I think Fat Rob is going to be the starting running back there. He did through weeks, I think it was 14 through 17. He was a number 3 running back, I'm pretty sure it was last year. So he has the potential to put up numbers. And with that offense, definitely is going to be a pass-first offense, however. But teams are going to be preparing for the pass more than the run. And I think that opens it up a little bit for Fat Rob to come in. I think he's going to take the starting back. I think P. Ryan will be there by the end of the year. I do think P. Ryan may end up being the starter. But Rob Kelly's definitely going to have his, to prove himself. And I think he'll get that opportunity.
In 15 games, he played in 15 games. He started 9. So a little over half the season, he was the starter. He carried the ball 168 times for just over 700 yards. And he found the end zone 6 times, a lot of them coming, as you said, in the late of the year. So he came on strong, and coming into the year, he's the number 1 guy on that depth chart. You got Chris Thompson, who's just a pass catcher, very similar to those third down kind of backs. And I do like P. Ryan. We'll talk about P. Ryan a little bit in a minute when we talk about the rookies. But I think it's Fat Rob's job at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, I like him as a sleeper running back. I have him as a sleeper. But I do agree he has that breakout potential that you talked about for sure. I think they like him in Washington. I think they're going to have to run the ball a little bit at least to facilitate their pass game.
Like I said, I mean, they're going to be I think there's going to be pass first. That's the key there.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Redskins being a pass first team, my breakout guy, I know he's one of yours too, Terrell Pryor.
Yes, sir.
Senior. Terrell Pryor Senior, right?
Not his son.
Not his son. Not little Terrell, TJ. Terrell Pryor Sr., we both have him as a breakout. He played for the Toilet Bowl Browns last year, still managed to haul in 77 passes for 1,000 yards and only 4 touchdowns, but you got to remember.
That's Cleveland. That's
he had
touchdown total for the year.
He had RG3 throwing to him, Cody Kessler, Brian Hogan, or Kevin Hogan, almost said Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan would have been better.
Probably better off.
Ben Hogan would have been way better with that butter. I bet you he has a butter arm to throw the ball to him, but
a butter arm.
A butter arm. He had a butter. He had a butter guard. He had a butter golf. Arm. You know what I'm saying. His form was like butter. Ben Hogan was amazing. But moral of the story is he had horrible quarterbacks throwing him the ball all year, but he still found a way to be fantasy football relevant and have a solid year. And now you bring in a pass first team, which we can't really say that Cleveland was a pass first or run first team. They were just a lose first team.
Yeah, first to lose.
So they were a lose first team. So you didn't really get a great sample of them, but he still performed. And now you're bringing in Kirk Cousins, who can air it out. I like Terrell Pryor a lot.
I do too. For as far as rankings are concerned, he had started out at wide receiver 27 for me. I had him boosted up a little bit just because his performance and stuff and all the hype. I moved him up to number 23. And then I actually saw that one-handed catch that he made. I don't know if you saw that.
He went up and got it like crazy over the guy. It was awesome.
Crazy. So I bumped him up 2 more spots to wide receiver 21.
Just for that catch.
Just for that. It's like, honestly,
I think
like,
that
why not?
I
So
I think that catch was worth a bump. I think that was
yeah,
worth a couple.
he's getting hype. He looked all right in the. They targeted him in the preseason game, so I think he's looking good. I think he's gonna come out. He's gonna be. I think he has potential. He has that ceiling to be a wide receiver 1, like ending in the top 10. But I think he has. I think he has a very high floor as well.
As long as he stays healthy, I think he's gonna end up being a low end 1, upper mid tier 2, depending on how he, we'll see. And I like Crowder as well, so I just kind of think the Redskins' offense will be solid. Their defense will hold them back a little bit, but I think Terrell Pryor is going to have a solid year.
Yeah,
He's
and
my breakout guy.
I think with Terrell Pryor, he's another one of those guys like I talked like Doug Baldwin last week. Terrell Pryor would be one of those guys where if I got 2 stud running backs for my first 2 picks, I'd have no issue taking Terrell Pryor as my wide receiver 1. But like we've been talking about with this whole Washington pass offense, Matt, I'll give you another one of my sleepers, and that's Kirk Cousins. Captain Kirk, man. Last year, let me just read these off for you quick. 2015, he had 4,166 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 picks. Last year, 4,917 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 picks. So touchdowns went down a little bit. I just think that was with the Jordan Reed injury. I think that was the fact that Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson, I never really liked them together. I understand that they both had like the different, like Deshaun Jackson was a deep ball threat, but then Garçon was a little short. But they didn't really have like a guy that could do both, which I think
didn't
they
have a
have
complete
now
receiver.
in Crowder.
He's never had a complete receiver.
Right, and I think they do now with Pryor. And I think Crowder's there as well. I really do. I think both of those guys are guys that can do both aspects of the game when it could be short passes and long routes. But also, a little unknown fact about Kirk Cousins, last year he had the 4th most rushing touchdowns amongst quarterbacks, behind only Cam Newton, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson. So
wow,
he had 4. Yeah, he had 4 rushing touchdowns as well. So I mean, not something to forget about. I have Kirk Cousins all the way up at QB6 now, even moved him up even higher than I had him before. I'm all in on him. I think he's a sleeper though because he is going super late in drafts. He's a guy that is going to go produce, I think, way more than his ADP.
I think that Kirk Cousins is a guy, and I also have him moving up a couple spots. I wasn't big on him. I've never been. It's not so much that I'm not big on him. I just think there are a lot of good quarterbacks for fantasy, and I never thought he kind of cracked into that like upper echelon group of them. But I think the thing with Kirk Cousins and the reason why he slides so far is he's just not that. He doesn't have that like sex appeal as far as a quarterback goes in terms of fantasy production. People don't really trust him. And I think that I think he has a chance to really break that trend. And I could see him going either way with the situation. I like his receivers. I think he does have a complete receiving core as good as he's had. So, who knows? Captain Kirk might be on the move.
Yeah, man.
All right, Ben. So, let's get into it a little bit. There are a couple rookies that might have some fantasy value. We don't really have to talk about them a whole lot. But
yeah. I mean,
my guy –
go ahead, you go first. Give me your
guy that I think has the most potential to become a fantasy impact. And I know when we're talking about these guys as rookies, it's hard to know.
Fantasy relevant.
Fantasy relevance, I think Evan Ingram, the tight end out of Ole Miss, has a chance to come in for the New York Giants and become one of Eli Manning's. I know they have a lot of targets, and that with Shepard back, as long as he can stay healthy, Brandon Marshall coming in, and Odell as good as it gets. I think Ingram, through his athleticism and his size and his just unique skill set, similar to the skill set of David Njoku, we see now in the NFL tight ends become these hybrid type tight ends that have a chance to play split out a little bit but also be in. As long as he can block, he could find the field a little more. But I think Ingram has a chance to become one of Eli's favorite new targets. And I like him. I think he could be a fringe starter tight end towards the middle of the year.
Eli loves throwing the tight ends. That stretch he had where he was throwing 3 touchdowns to Larry Donnell, Will Tye. He loved throwing passes at him. I mean, you go all the way back to the days he didn't really play with Eli, but Jeremy Shockey. The Giants
Kevin
scheme,
Boss.
The Giants scheme, no matter who it seems to be their coach, they love throwing the tight ends in the red zone. I do think Marshall takes some of those away, but I think Ingram could be a good pick, especially a streamer pick in the daily leagues, the DraftKings, FanDuel, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like Ingram. I also put down Donnell Pumphrey. I watched a little bit of the Eagles preseason game, and I like Pumphrey. I think he has a chance to kind of come in and maybe, depending on the health of the Eagles' backfield, kind of steal some of that third down work from Sproles. And obviously, like I said, health is very pending for Pumphrey. Had to shout him out, though. Had a great career at San Diego State. He's a very talented running back coming into the Eagles organization. I think he has a chance to make a splash this year and going forward for sure as well.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And we were talking a little bit about P. Ryan. I think those are really the only rookies in this division that have a chance to become any fantasy relevance. P. Ryan, we both like Rob Kelly. I don't like Chris Thompson that much. I think P. Ryan has a chance. And a lot of people were super high on Mixon, but people don't realize that Samaje Perine was the guy in Oklahoma. He was great for Oklahoma the past couple of years. And he's got like 87-inch biceps. I think he's got to grip the crap out of that football.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He hits he hits leg day, but he hits arm day more for sure. So Perine, like I said, I think he'll be the starter by the end of the year, but I think it's going to be a little bit slow. So we'll see. But
I think he'll definitely capture that number 2 spot. And when they spell Fat Rob, because, Fat Rob loves his fast food, I think maybe he could get some work. And depending on how he shows early, he could move in and they could have, split the work. And
yeah.
But I think, like you said, by the end of the year, I think P. Ryan will definitely be on the field more often than Chris Thompson. And we'll see how Rob does.
One more rookie I want to talk about real fast. Kind of going way under the radar, deep flyer. Mac Hollins, wide receiver out of North Carolina, playing for the Eagles. Everybody's talking about Nelson Aguilar, how he's been looking really good in the training camp and through the preseason game. Matt Collins had 4 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown in the first preseason game. So they're definitely looking at him. I know it's playing against second and third team defenses, but with Jordan Matthews gone, it makes Alshon's definitely been the number 1 wide receiver. I think he'll stay there at number 1. I know they brought in Torrey Smith, but I think Torrey Smith is going to be that change of pace guy because Torrey Smith, even though he's getting up there in age, he can still move pretty quick. He's still a pretty fast guy. So I think that they're going to look for a bigger wide receiver, and I think Mac Hollins could be that guy. So I think Mac Hollins may make his way up to number 2 on their depth chart, but hey, you never know. He's that deep flyer guy, that guy you might take a risk on. But he's my other rookie.
Never heard of him. I have to admit, I've never heard of him.
Hey, that's fair enough. Look at him a little bit, though. He's got some potential.
You never know, man. I'll have to check that out. Mac Hollins. Macklemore Hollins, I believe his name is, right?
Macklemore Hollins.
Cool. That's what you were telling me earlier. I can't take the credit for that, so maybe he can rap like Macklemore. So, got to get to the busts. I have a bust that I know are very high on. In my first rankings, I didn't like him, and I'm still not big on him. New York Giant, Brandon Marshall. Coming in, I think he's a lot of hype coming in. I think it's a lot of hype. People don't realize how Odell Beckham got 169 targets, so that's a load of targets. Sterling Shepard was also very solid. We talked about Ingram coming in. I think we'll talk a little bit about we'll talk about Smash Jackson here in a minute, but I don't know. I think Brandon Marshall is not going to be that big-time fantasy player that people are talking about him being. I think he's going very early in drafts as far as like where he should be as far as value goes. I think Brandon Marshall's a terrific addition for the New York Giants. I don't think he's a terrific addition for your fantasy team. That's my personal opinion.
Fair enough. I think he's going to be – I think he's that guy you could put in for a fill-in wide receiver. I don't have a problem filling him as a flex. Almost he's getting to that wide receiver 2 range. I think he's trending up personally as well. But, he's a guy that, like I said, he's a hit or miss. He's very boom-bust. He has that red zone. You know what he can do in the red zone. He put up numbers before with the Jets, which is saying something. You had Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing you. I think no matter what you do, Eli Manning's an upgrade from that. But I just think he has the ability to have a big year. I'm not going to put him in that bust category, but I think he's, a great player. I think he's a great player playing for a team
no doubt he's a
ball,
solid player. Brandon Marshall's had a heck of a career. He's also getting up there in age. And I just feel like
he went right here too. UCF. Brandon Marshall.
You know how I feel about UCF wide receivers, UCF players in general.
That's fine, man.
But he's my guy at bust. Do you have anybody in this division that you just don't like?
Yeah, I have one on the Giants as well. I was higher on him earlier too. Paul Perkins. He's really gone down from. He did not look very good. He did not look very good in that first preseason game. Shane Vereen looked pretty good, and Shane Vereen's been known to, come in from guys, back them up, and just end up taking their job. And now they drafted Wayne Gallman as well.
They took his job.
They took our job.
He's going to take his turf. Took his turf.
But no, we got. But I think that Paul Perkins is trending down. I'm putting him in the bust category because where he's being drafted, I think he's going to perform less than that. But he's still a guy that can be a benefit to your team if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I don't think he's, like I said, I'm busting where he's getting drafted at, but he can still be on your team, just probably not a starter.
Smash
So,
Jackson, Paul Perkins is a guy that I was very torn on. And the main reason why I'm not a big fan of Perkins is because the Giants' offensive line is not very good, definitely lower half in the league. I had to hear my roommate, shout out Chris Weigel, complain about Eric Flowers unmercifully. So we know that Paul Perkins can't run to the left side because of Eric Flowers over there. I just can't really see him excel. And Giants running backs in general haven't really excelled.
I agree,
Because
yeah.
they've been hard to trust. I mean, you've got Vereen, and Vereen's going to take the third down work from
Right.
Perkins. And you also have Erwin's Darkwa, who has found the field a little bit. They know what they're getting with him. I think Perkins could definitely bust for sure. He's hard to trust in fantasy football, but he also could burst onto the scene depending on how his development goes. I think because of their offensive line struggles and the fact that they do have a great receiving core, I think Giants running backs could struggle this year for sure.
Yeah.
So
one more. Let me give you one really fast, Matt, and I'm going to throw this way out there. Bust Jordan Howard. Not a fan of him this year.
Jordan Reed.
You're right. Jordan Howard. No, I love Jordan Howard. Jordan Reed, man, I think he has the potential to bust for the sole fact that if that man cannot stay healthy, which he has not done once in his career, I don't think he's going to be worth where he's getting drafted right now, which is like in the second, third round. He's getting drafted above Gronk by some people, which is bogus to me. I think he could be a bust, even though they pass the ball a lot. I don't like it.
I think he's always been overrated. I don't know. ESPN always has him ranked so high in their draft boards, and I think that Jordan, like you said, Jordan Reed, a guy that health has been his main concern. He's a freaky athlete. We know he likes to chuck the ball, but I agree he can't stay healthy. And as far as his ADP and where he goes in most drafts, I definitely think he's way overvalued for sure. So right. I don't disagree with that. I think if he stays healthy, he's almost in that top tier bucket, but health is his biggest concern.
Sure. So, do you got any more for you, NFC East?
No, as far as the NFC East goes, that's all I really have.
What do you think happens there? And real quick, I just want to apologize. My camera's been messed up this whole time. So everybody watching, I'm sorry. I'm sideways apparently. Someone told me that I'm sideways, so I'm in a little box, but you can still see me. Matt, you got the full. Matt's a better looking dude anyway, so don't worry about that.
No one's looking at you anyway.
No one's looking at me. Yeah, they're just
if you're tuning into the Make or Break Sports podcast because you think Ben's good looking, I don't know. You're missing the point.
You're here for the wrong reasons.
You're missing the point if you're in here for Ben's looks. But anyway, so that's really what we got for the NFC East. Quick record thing. I like the Giants to win the division.
I do as well. I'm 11-5.
11-5. That's what I have them as well. I think that the problem is I think they will probably split with the Cowboys and probably the Eagles because this division just finds a way to undercut each other and split the games. I think that the Cowboys, even without Zeke, still have a chance to win 9 or 10 games.
Okay.
I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a chance to win 8 or 9 games.
Okay.
And then I think that the 49ers, I think the Redskins have a chance to be in that 7-9. Maybe.
See, okay, we're a little different. I have the Giants 11-5. Then I have Dallas and the Eagles both at 8-8. I have them going 50. I think that Zeke suspension literally took about 3 wins. I had them at 11-5 before as well. Them winning the division, but this suspension kills them. I think it just deflates them. Matt, I have the Redskins at 10-6. I've been telling you, I'm really high on the Redskins.
Wow.
I'm really high
That's
on the Redskins.
high.
I think out of the Eagles and the Cowboys, I think the Redskins have the better defense of them and Dallas, and I think their offense is way better. I think the Eagles' defense is better, but I just think Washington's offense is going to power them. They're going to be able to outscore most teams in the NFL, and I think their schedule sets them up a little bit better to be a little bit more successful. But, I mean, that division's wide open, but I do think the Giants are the best team in that division.
I just don't trust their defense. And as I said before, I'm not like super high on Kirk Cousins.
Sure, yeah.
But
I mean, I
think because this division is such a grinder, I don't think they can. I think they're gonna, at best case scenario, split with all 3 other teams. So right there's 3 losses. I don't think they will split with all the teams. I think they probably will get swept by the Giants, and we'll see what happens otherwise.
Yeah, I mean,
and other than that, but I think this division is open. I think they're definitely going to have at least one of the wild cards. That's what I will say. I think this division one, if not two, of the wild cards in the NFC. Probably one. Probably
Yeah,
one.
I agree
Because I think
NFC's
Tampa.
tough. You got Tampa.
Because I think Tampa's about to make that jump.
Tampa's right
I
there.
would say
Arizona and Seattle are both right there, I think, too. So you got one of those teams that can compete. But hey,
division's competitive. Knows? Watching these games are always awesome. This division is one of the most fun to watch because they're always competitive games, even in the wins. I think New York will take the division because I think their defense.
You're just stalling right now. You're stalling because I know you don't want to get to the PGA.
I knew you were going to get into the golf.
You're stalling. You keep telling me what's going to happen here. That concludes the NFC East. We got 3 divisions left. We got about 3 or 4 weeks till the regular season starts, so we'll definitely get them all in. Stay tuned for the other ones. We got specials coming. But, Matt, let's tell the people what's going on.
All right, guys. So PGA Championship just finished up this weekend. An incredible, incredible tournament. I hope you all got to watch. Congratulations to Justin Thomas winning at 8 under. He really killed Quail Hollow. Came from behind the last day and played fantastic.
Just Quail hunting. He did pretty well too.
He did very, very well. And I love Justin Thomas. I think he's an up-and-coming young golfer. Congratulations to him. He played really, really well. Let's get into our picks. So in terms of – we'll start with the sleepers. I went with Daniel Berger. You went with Webb Simpson. Daniel Berger missed the cut.
Yes, he did.
Webb Simpson made the cut.
Finished at 3 over overall. So I just want to throw this out there to rub it in, Matt, a little more as well. Daniel Berger the cut line was +4. Daniel Berger was +2 heading into hole, I think it was 16 or 15. And he went double and made back-to-back doubles on 16 and 17. To make him miss the cut. So I was enjoying that. I like that a lot.
Thank you, Daniel Berger. It seemed like all of my guys really choked it away at the end for me. So, thank you, Daniel Berger, for those double bogeys.
Me winning the sleeper,
so that's the first.
That puts me up 3-1. I'm sorry. That puts me up 3-1 in our bet challenge.
Don't get ahead of yourself on this.
I mean, I am up 4-1 now because we had our picks as well. We picked 3 golfers that are more of the higher caliber golfers. So Matt had Hideki Matsuyama, Jordan Spieth, Justin Rose. I had Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Ricky Fowler. So Ricky Fowler and Hideki Matsuyama both finished at 5 under. So we called that a tie, and we don't like ties because no one's a winner. So we went to the next best score, which turned out to be Dustin Johnson shooting even par, and Matt's next best score was Jordan Spieth, 2 over. I win that one as well. Just to throw it out there, he picked Justin Rose, like I said as well. Justin Rose also missed the cut, so he had 2 players miss the cut. And Rory McIlroy, my other pick, also finished in front of Spieth. So pretty much domination in the PGA picks on my part.
And, but the thing about it is that's really the most frustrating. So I lost the superstar golfer and the sleeper golfer and the Zeke suspension. And so I'm down 4-1 to Ben.
You were confident with that 1 win, and now you lost 4 in a row. So that's about right.
So I'm off to a sluggish start to the challenge. So
Matsuyama had it for you.
Matsuyama had it for me. He was playing so well. He actually took the solo outright lead to start the back 9 and just coughed it up, made a bunch of bogeys, and ended up tying Ricky. So Matsuyama, I honestly was confident towards the end there that he was going to win it. He's such a solid golfer and still played great, by the way. I mean, shout out to Ricky and Hideki. They both played great. Came in tied for 5th, I believe they were.
Yeah, they were both tied for 5th. So Ricky Fowler, top 5 finish is 7th now. 7th time he's finished in the top 5 on majors. He's
some other
next.
notable. Yeah, he is next. He's next. I like Ricky a lot. I'm mad at Hideki.
Man. I would pay money to hang out with that spring break crew, man. Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Smiley Kaufman, Jordan Spieth, I just want to be their friends.
That would
they
be
were Snapchatting afterward.
Get someone at one of those guys.
Make or breaks. Get them make or break. We'll sponsor them somehow. We don't have any money to really give them, but we'll put I don't know. They put our name on their bag or something like that. We'd love that,
I start drinking Natty Lights to get to hang out with those guys.
I have a Mick Ultra bottle signed by Smiley Kaufman that he crossed out and wrote Natty Light on it. So you got to
shout out Smiley Kaufman.
So shout out Smiley.
Couple other notable finishes real quick. Gotta, shout out some other guys because the PGA was great. Congratulations.
Of course. That course was playing real tough.
It was, man. It was brutal. Louis Oosthuizen, Patrick Reed, and Francesco, the Italian Stalin Molinari, tied for 2nd at 6 under. Oosthuizen, if anyone didn't see the video of him lip singing Adele,
it was awesome.
That dude's got awesome vocals to go along with that awesome golf swing. He actually completed his career Grand Slam.
Matt, I don't think he actually was singing, Matt. I'm pretty sure he was just lip singing.
I know. I didn't think he hit the notes, but
you were hyping up his voice, so I'm just trying to think.
I mean, hey, how do we know? Maybe it was him. Maybe
let me just say, I was very, very, very sure that if Jason Day was on that top page of that leaderboard come Sunday, he was going to win because he was really grinding out the first day. He played a great second day, and then the third day, he was playing so well until he got to hole 18. And for those of you that don't know what happened, he made birdie, birdie, birdie on 14, 15, 16. Then he made bogey on 17. And then he made a quadruple bogey on 18 to put him from 5 under all the way back to 1 under. So it was just a mess.
Watching that quadruple bogey was tough. I love Jason Day. I think he's obviously a grinder, a tough golfer. He'll be back in the winner's circle.
It would have just made it more fun. Put another name at the top of that list, another big name right at the top of that leaderboard puts pressure on guys.
So that's really all we have for the PGA Championship. I obviously took a couple L's there. L City over here, down 4-1 in the challenge, but great golf tournament. Congratulations again to Justin Thomas. The dude played lights out. We'll definitely have to do something for the FedEx Cup playoffs. The FedEx Cup playoffs are going to be awesome. They're coming up soon. This was obviously the last major of the year. So we'll definitely have some more golf. If you're a golf enthusiast, we'll have some more golf stuff for you later. A couple of real quick things. Just want to wish a happy birthday to Tim Tebow and Magic Johnson. It's crazy they share the same birthday.
Listen to this guy. He's throwing out birthday shout-outs.
Tebow hitting dingers in the minor leagues and Magic Johnson just being a beast.
He's just awesome. He's just
an awesome player. So happy birthday shout out to those guys. Another thing real quick, guys, if you are not following us on social media, get after us on Twitter, Facebook. Go check out our website. Like we said, we have the updated rankings coming out this week. We'll have a special for that. So watch out on Twitter or Facebook for that. Go down and hit that subscribe button, guys. Turn your notifications on. You can find out.
As we said last week too, we're doing the fantasy league. We're trying to get a league going. People obviously don't want to play in a league with us because they know that we have our insight and they don't want to lose. So
I was going to say it'd be tough to play against us.
Matt and I are playing on a team together. We're trying to get people to come in. It is free. You get to play in it for free. It'll be on ESPN. Winner, we have a prize for the winner, probably a gift card of some sort to either Amazon or whatever. But get after us on that. DM us, message us, whatever. Somehow get in contact. Say you want to be in, and we'll give you all the information to get in that.
And one last thing, guys, if you could smash that like button, that'd be fantastic. Trying to hit the like button so we can grow the channel. Make or break sports here. We're just trying to grow a little bit. We got high hopes, low blows here. It's, we're really enjoying it. So this has been episode 5. I think that's all we have.
Yeah, you guys have a good week. We'll talk to you at the end of this week. We got a special for you.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We got some keep your eyes out. That's why you should hit that subscribe button so you get that notification. So keep your eyes peeled for the ranking special coming out sometime this week. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This has been Make or Break Sports. Take it easy.
Take care, guys. Have a good week.